So hey everyone, Jordan here with Food Bevy and really excited for you to join for today's webinar. We're really going to be talking about the 6 strategies to boost your e-commerce sales. And this is going to be an exciting one because I have on as my guest, Scott, who is the senior e-commerce growth coach at BigCommerce and spends his days working with e-commerce founders and people on their teams to really optimize and pinpoint what they're doing really well and areas of improvement for their business. So with that, Scott, I'd love for you to just jump in and take it away.
Perfect. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Let me go to the next slide. I'm Scott Jones. I'm the senior e-commerce growth coach. I don't know if you've ever heard of a growth coach, but I'll kind of give you some background on that. So essentially what I do is at BigCommerce specifically for our customers who are on our platform, oftentimes they've migrated to BigCommerce or they're just starting on e-commerce in general, and they maybe need some help with increasing conversion on their site. They're like, yeah, it's just not where we want it to be, or they're not getting enough traffic in. So there's 2 pieces of that. The traffic side is more of like the SEO, which is like Google and organic search that comes in, so that's driving people to your site. And then there's the conversion side, which is, once you have that traffic, how do you keep that traffic there? And how do you convert that traffic to sales specifically? So we do audits for both of those things for our merchants at BigCommerce. And so we give people actionable steps. I'm like, here's what you can do based on, not only our knowledge, but also doing some analysis within their particular vertical. So food and beverage, we would like look at, what's common amongst your competitors that we'd ask you what your competitors are, and then we look at that. So based on my knowledge, from my training, but also just from working with merchants, I'm going to try to help out today. I know some of you probably aren't on BigCommerce, so maybe you'll learn a little bit about BigCommerce along the way, but ultimately, these are things that you can take with you regardless of if you're on BigCommerce or not. So, but yeah, my background, I actually worked in the food and beverage industry before this. I used to be director of operations for a bakery in Austin, Texas, and I also used to be the operations director for a couple of coffee roasters in town. So, have worked with e-commerce in the past for that particular vertical, and know some tips and tricks with that as well. So yeah, really excited to work with everybody and hopefully provide some valuable knowledge. But yeah, let me move on to the next slide. So this is just basically what we're going to cover. A lot of this is just what I've experienced with merchants that I do these audits with. What are the most common questions that they have, and what are the most common issues I see when we do the audits. So we'll go into more detail on these, but this is just kind of an overview. So where I like to start with this is measuring success. A lot of us, probably as we're getting started in e-commerce, we don't know how to define success. Like, what really is our goal for this e-commerce store? And, you probably heard the term conversion thrown around a lot, but what does conversion actually mean? There's a lot of different ways you can define conversion. So there's sales conversion, which are on-site purchases, average order value. And then you have additional metrics, like maybe you're trying to see how many people convert in terms of newsletter signups, or maybe you have reservations. So maybe you're wanting to see your conversion rate on people who come to your site and reserve, right? So, or cart abandonment. These are all things that you can consider conversion. But in this particular session, we're going to just talk about on-site purchases. So when you're selling, consumer packaged goods or things like that, like, it sounds like a lot of you probably sell your stuff to grocery stores and things like that, or maybe convenience stores or just retailers in general. And so you're trying to also offer that online. And so we want to focus on how we get that traffic. Once we get the traffic in, how do we make that experience of finding what we need and converting to a checkout and a purchase as easy as possible and reduce that friction. So the first thing I'll mention is building trust. I think this is the most fundamental thing that I think a lot of people miss when they're designing their site. I think it's easy to get caught up in, hey, I just need to get this on here. I just need to get everything on the site and make it functional, right? And that's a big undertaking for sure. But once you've done that, what do you add to the site? What can you keep providing? And really what's going to keep people from choosing a competitor or buying from, maybe a retailer directly versus you is developing trust, right? So maybe they are familiar with your brand, but a lot of times they aren't. So how do you get them familiar with your brand and who you are and what you do? So focus on your brand. What makes you unique? It's okay to brag about yourself. Like a lot of people are like, do people care about this stuff? Like odds are they probably do. And reviews, I think everybody kind of takes this as like something that's just implicitly there, but like there's actually some work involved in getting reviews and generating a healthy amount of reviews on not only your products, but maybe you as a merchant. So maybe you just sell B2B, right? Like you maybe don't need product reviews, but maybe you want to show, hey, I'm a reliable business. I want to show that I am, people buy our stuff and they're happy with our service. We also have integrations with BigCommerce that can help you with that. But, any of these e-commerce platforms probably have something to, set that up and do some outreach for getting reviews as well. Yotpo and Stamp.io are top two at BigCommerce. Social proof through certifications, right? Like, so we'll talk about that a little more in a second. I'll show you what that means. So basically, like maybe you're USDA organic, call that out. Maybe you're vegan. I'm vegan. That's what I look for, right? Like I want to make sure that all the products are, dairy-free, gluten-free, and maybe you're gluten-free, right? So call that stuff out and make it very easy to be like, checked all the boxes. That's exactly what I want. So you can see over here, Green Roads, they're one of our merchants on BigCommerce, and you can see they're kind of like checking all the boxes with like little kind of icons here that subliminally just kind of, help you visualize what they're talking about. So you can kind of just get an easy view, and then like the reviews here, making it and this is all right at what we call above the fold. The fold being the bottom of the screen. So when you land on that screen, all of this is right there immediately. So that's kind of key in conversion too, making it very easy and reducing friction. So Gourmet Fuel, they're another merchant from BigCommerce. You can see that they have an area where they're talking about who they are and like what their credentials are. So like they're a nutritionist, they're an Irish-based company, what their degrees are, and all of the things that would give me reasons to purchase from these people over somebody else, right? And then they have this page of all like these testimonials. So it's kind of cool to see that in all a nice, easy presentable place. You can have a whole page like this, but honestly, you don't have to have like a real-time integration that pulls all these things in. Maybe you just pick some of your reviews that you like, and then you put those on a static page, and you like take snippets of that. That is a very easy thing that anybody can do. On BigCommerce, you don't have to have coding experience to do that stuff. We have ways where it's drag and drop functionality that makes it very simple for people to add content that's valuable without having to be, a coding guru, right? So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Snap Kitchen is another one. They're a local Austin company that does pre-made meals. So it's probably applicable to a lot of y'all, but you can see they call out some of the publications that have mentioned them. So if you have any of those, definitely call those out and provide links to the articles that are called out. And then, again, more testimonials. This stuff is just, again, even if they don't read them, if they see that it's there, if they see these household names there, that's immediately going to build credibility. All right. So the next topic's a simple site structure. So simple doesn't mean like keeping it, minimal, right? Simple means it's easy to navigate. So everybody navigates a little bit differently though. And that's really kind of based on your need as a customer. So something cool that Green Roads has done is they do the shop by solution versus product type. So maybe I wasn't looking for CBD initially, but maybe I was looking for something that would help me sleep better or reduce my stress or anything else, right? These are ways that can help people get to where they need to go without, having to just go through the categories and find, each product page and then read on that product what they do, right? This is answering that question kind of faster and easier. So, yeah. And
Just
then
got a question around that, because I think
Sure.
A lot of brands are starting to look at that. Do you have any cues or ways of figuring out like what that site structure should be, like how to figure out how customers are searching?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first step is to look at your competitors, right? Look at people who are doing well and see how they structure it and get an idea of the commonalities there, because you don't want to differentiate yourself in the sense of like you're going to confuse somebody, right? Like you want to make the experience very familiar with them, right? Like if you go to Amazon and shop, you know how to shop because it's very familiar, right? So you want to keep it familiar with the types of customers that you're working with. Where you differentiate yourself is, again, like maybe doing a shop by solution like that, or and then the value propositions that you give, like what you do different as a brand, right? That's how you want to differentiate yourself. You don't want it to be this crazy category structure that makes sense from a internal standpoint but doesn't resonate from an external standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. And also, one key metric that we like is when you're creating categories, don't go more than 3 subcategories deep, because one, it's going to be just a lot of clicking, and each click the customer has to do reduces their likelihood of conversion by 20% at least. And it gets incrementally more after that. So you want to reduce the amount of clicks for a customer. So basically have a parent category, maybe one category, and then at a max, one other subcategory. And try to keep it at that. If you really can't, like, it's okay, but like just as a rule of thumb, like keep that in the back of your mind when you're developing your category structure.
And then Scott, one thing I was having this conversation with a copywriter recently, like when you showed the example of the product description page, it was very, I think there's a lot of functional language in terms of like explaining what the product is and how to use it,
right.
And some of the benefits. What do you think about the balance between using very practical language versus more experiential language that's more about the emotional experience of using the product?
It's a really good question, actually. It's really, again, you got to cater to different kinds of buyers, right? There's all different kinds of shopper personas, and you can develop shopper personas. That's what a lot of digital marketers do. They'll develop like who's like my poster child customer for this kind of product or like this kind, and right, they'll create multiple kinds of personas, and then they'll create experiences for those personas, right? And so when you're thinking about that, you might have to include kind of both of those kinds of language. I think it's good too for SEO for you can rank for different keywords, right? Because whatever text you put on that page, Google's going to crawl that, and that's what it's going to try to rank you for if it thinks it's relevant. So if you're mentioning more terms that, again, are going to be like for a different kind of buyer, you might increase your conversion there too, because you're getting more qualified traffic coming in, if that makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, great question. So I guess I'll move on to this next example. This is, again, gourmet fuel, but you can see the filtering on the left-hand side. They use, how do I like to eat? Anything I don't like. Low in / moderate, ready to eat / heat, spice level, all these things, like maybe you don't necessarily think about like from just a general sense, but this could be make or break for a lot of people buying your products, right? Like if they couldn't find like the spice level anywhere, or if they didn't have these kinds of like descriptions on your products, then that may keep them from buying it. Or it can keep, your average or your lifetime value of a customer higher, right? Because they're actually buying a product that is more suited to their needs, right? Instead of getting something and they're like, oh, that was too spicy, I'm not getting that again, right? So you're trying to help them with not only this purchase, but the overall purchase, throughout the lifetime of that customer. Here's another one, Spiceology. They do some cool stuff. So like this good on area over here, beef, chicken, desserts, very interesting, very unique to this vertical. But again, like, I don't know what goes well on beef. Chicken, my wife probably does because she's a chef, but I don't know. So I would probably look to this to help me find that. So, and then they have other like collections, right? They group things into collections as well, which is very common in a lot of different market segments. So, like kosher, yeah, that's interesting, right? Like, wouldn't even think about that normal. But yeah, just some easy ways that you can help people get to where they need to go. And then other things,
it's kind of interesting, Scott, because I feel like, and I'm guilty of this as well, right? It's like the founder or someone on the team. It's very easy to think of the website experience from the brand side. Mm-hmm. And it's harder to think about it from a customer side, right? As someone from the brand, everything there is to know about the products. And so there's a lot of assumptions that you have already made versus someone who's never visited your site or never heard of your product before, or like in the CBD examples, maybe had no idea what CBD is, right? And so you have to think about it. And I love that approach of kind of understanding who those customer personas are, but kind of visiting it from a customer mindset.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about value, right? Like, I think a huge thing right now is like prebiotic and probiotic drinks, right? Like a month ago, I started a subscription for Olipop. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but went to their site. They made it very easy for me to set up a subscription. I got a percentage off because of that. And it was just like set and forget. And I can change that subscription very easily. They have like referrals programs, so you can refer a friend, they get a certain percentage off. Like all of these things you have to kind of consider that help, drive value is kind of key, right? So for me, it was like prebiotics. It was like help, they just hone in on gut health, right? And like helping, just overall, like it's not just soda, it's soda that's like healthy for you. So, for me, it's like I could drink Topo Chico all day, but it's like, maybe I should just drink something that's a little bit, more beneficial than just carbonated water. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And then, you have like this merchant here. I think this is Spiceology as well, where they, on their homepage, they made these little thumbnails, right? With icons that they click on. Like, maybe I'm looking into getting into baking and I want to be a badass baker. Like that entices me to click that. Or maybe you're shopping as a gift, maybe you know someone who likes to cook and, think about like your products. Like, is it something that would be good as a gift? How can you package that? How can you display that on your site and make it easy for them to, instead of having to click multiple times to find a gift bundle or something like that, how can that be presented in a way that's just as easy as like 1 or 2 clicks? So, all right, which leads me to my next topic, homepage design. I think a lot of us, if you have been around like since the internet came into the modern world and everyday use, I think we thought of homepages as just like a landing page, right? And then you just kind of click from there, which, a lot of times is the case. But, when it comes to information and when it comes to how people are shopping, a lot of them are, 1, they're brand new to your business. And 2, they're doing it on a mobile device. So the thing you have to consider about mobile devices is they aren't as fast typically as, desktop computers and things like that when they load things. So when you click on something, it's going to take longer. You also have to think about scrolling and clicking. Things like that are going to, and trying to look through a list of things, it's going to be harder on a mobile device than it is on a desktop device. You have to think about those 2 kinds of customers, right? So, but for a homepage, you really want to make it for both a area where they can scroll with their, their mobile device or just like with their mouse and get all the information they need and scroll down the page. This isn't only helpful for conversion. This is helpful for SEO too. Again, like they kind of go hand in hand, because the more content you have on that page, the more likely you're going to rank for other search queries on Google. So when you're thinking about what content to add, think about like, those little thumbnails of like Badass Baker and all that stuff. And then, if you like look at some like Solo Stove, they have this carousel here that shows, their savings during the spring. So you don't want to keep this static, right? You want to keep this updated if you can on a normal basis, because you want to, again, drive that lifetime value for customers. You want people to come back to your site and not just land on the whole page and be like, oh, I've already looked at this, I'm done. You want to kind of think about how often should I provide new content on the homepage at the top, and then the rest down the bottom, I can maybe, keep more static about like who we are, why they should buy from us, answering what we call the 5 W's, so who, what, where, when, why. That's going to.
How often are you seeing brands kind of switch up their homepage design? Because most of the companies I found in the kind of emerging brand space are kind of putting something up and like, okay, finally we have something, but they're not rotating it every couple of months or so. Do you have an idea like what cadence some other brands are doing it?
Yeah, I think quarterly is a good goal. If you could do it quarterly, like, seasonally, right? Maybe, summer, fall, winter. Try to do different deals, different things for that. And I think that would be enough to, help not only with conversion, but again, Google has some time to crawl it, start to help maybe rank you for stuff. So you don't want to change it too often because, again, you may not gain any of the SEO benefits. But I would say like, every 3 to 4 months would probably be a safe bet.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So next slide, green roads. There are poster child for conversion stuff, but they have the value statement at the top of like 30% off store wide. So making it easy. They have the clear call to action with shop now. So that's something key, is when you're saying something, don't just say it, give them a way to act upon it, right? So try it to, in every piece of content that you have, put it into sections and make it actionable. That's also key to conversion too. And you can see like they have the refer a friend down here, and then all of those, different shop by solutions down here. Gourmet fuel. They also have like the, how it works, right? So maybe someone who's like, what do they actually do? I don't really get it. Gives them a step-by-step. So this could be really great for people who do something like this, who is maybe like a meal prep service, or like a, something like, I don't know if you like Blue Apron or HelloFresh or something like that, like understanding how that works to someone who is just totally green to this topic. They've never done it before. You have to make it very elementary and say, hey, this is what we do, break it down step by step, and list out every little detail that could appeal to someone who's brand new to this stuff. And then, they also have this like next order cutoff in 2 days. So that's basically saying, hey, like order now and you can get it like in the next week, right? Because I'm sure this is like all for like a 7-day basis. So they probably ship out on certain days. So again, if that's kind of applicable to you, you can do something like that as well. And there's integrations on BigCommerce to do that. We have apps that you can do that, or even if you want to code it in, there's ways to do that too. Awesome. So that's homepage design. Product page design. What you want to focus on here is, again, answering those 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, why. So you can see Modern Crest Garden or Mountain Crest Gardens. They have the why Mountain Crest Gardens button here. They give you all these value adds here of like, this is what we do. This was what makes it different. And then this is, some more household names that you would be familiar with: Wall Street Journal, Better Homes and Gardens. So building that trust while also providing value and checking all the boxes of why they should buy from you over someone else. FAQs are becoming really common on product pages, right? Because you have to think about people who are coming to your site. Maybe they don't just land on the homepage. Maybe they go to Google, they search for a particular type of protein bar, right? And your protein bar pops up in the Google shopping area. They click on your product and they land on the product page, but it's the first time they've ever heard about your company. So you still need to treat it like the homepage, where it's like, hey, who are we? What do we do? Why should you buy from us, right? And how do I do it? Putting those clear call to actions of add to cart, like that should all be right up front and center to make it very easy for them to act upon, where they've landed. So, and FAQs can be great for answering, those common questions without them having to click away, right? Because that click's going to reduce their likelihood of conversion. So if you can have that FAQ where they can just scroll and then there's the questions there and they can do that on the product page, then they can just stay on the product page and click add to cart. And you've answered all their questions within one page. That's the goal, right? Is to keep them moving down the purchase funnel, not backwards. Maybe laterally to buy other products, but not backwards. The second they start going back to the home page or going to other pages to get more info, the likelihood of churn is pretty high. So that's just kind of the rule of thumb. And then reviews and social proof. We kind of talked about that, but anytime that you have reviews, you want to make those front and center. Free shipping, you can see on this one, another value proposition. I'm sure a lot of you offer free shipping or some sort of free shipping, like on orders over 35, making sure that that's clearly outlined there.
Hey, Scott, quick question that Stephanie had. She asked, does using video content on a site impact conversion? Like how to use videos, or maybe how to use the product videos, or maybe just lifestyle brand videos?
100%. It does affect it in a positive way. I think video content is, if you have the means to do it, definitely do it. What I tell people is you don't have to apply everything to every product, to every page all at once, right? I like to do A/B testing, which is like try it on one thing, see if it works. If it works, apply it to the rest of the products, right? And start with your most popular products that you know are going to sell, and then apply that to the other stuff, right? Because the more you're appealing to not every person's going to watch a video, but there might be one person who will. And if that's, say you get, when you're starting out, you get maybe 10 users a week, right? And they, you convert one of them because of the video. That's, a conversion rate. That's what, 20% conversion rate, which is huge, right? Like when you're starting out, your conversion rates hopefully will be pretty high. And that's, and you can keep those people there. And then hopefully over time, as you build more traffic, that'll continue down that trajectory. But I think creating video content, if you have, I don't know if people resell stuff from manufacturers, but sometimes manufacturers offer videos that you can link to. So you can definitely do that. BigCommerce has ways to embed videos onto product pages, category pages, home pages, wherever you want. So it's very simple. It's just, usually you put it on YouTube or Vimeo or something like that. And then it'll embed that on the page. So it'll make it where you can click it very easily. So
I remember, was it like 5 or 6 years ago, you start seeing video headers on every homepage.
Oh yeah.
I think it slowed down a bunch of sites, so you don't see them as often anymore. But I think you just brought up a couple of good points, like having videos on product pages is really an undertapped area to use it. And one thing I've seen people do is when you get UGC style content of like a customer who's like unboxing your product or trying it, and you embed that video, it brings that testimonial to life as you're actually watching someone using the product. And I think it like doesn't have to be the expertly shot video either. It can literally be like someone on their iPhone or using a app. There's a service that I've used before called Billow, where you can request videos from essentially they're like minor influencers to be able to like talk about your product, and getting those up. So they can be super affordable to do.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think, there's a lot of that. There's, influencers, there's companies like trend.io where you can hire influencers to, use your products and, promote them on their, social media. You can even find people on YouTube, right? Like I am guilty of watching YouTubers and buying products that they put in their description because I get a coupon code, right? So the return on that one's pretty great. It's better than just like a YouTube ad, right? Where you're like trying to wait till it says skip and then you skip it, right? Like this is more like word of mouth marketing where you're like, I don't know about you, but I watch YouTube and I'm like, I kind of like feel like a connection with people that I follow. So then it's like, oh, I trust them. I want to buy something that they recommend. So
no, completely. And if you saw them like someone that you're like your customer is aware of or familiar with, like on your homepage or on like the product page, especially if it's someone that aligns with your target customer, it's like, oh wow, that's really cool. And I don't think they have like celebrities, but you're like you're mentioning like someone who's a YouTube influencer or someone in that vein could really draw a lot of attention there.
Yeah, and I mean, I've even seen big people on TikTok like doing ads for like, these giant behemoths of companies, and I see like commercials with them. I'm like, oh, that's weird because I've seen them on TikTok, but now they're doing like these crazy well-produced videos. So it's like, you can also, I mean, a lot of these social media platforms, the best content isn't like crazy high produced. It's just fun, it's relatable, and it's either, answering a question or it's just entertaining, right? So you can do either way. And I think it's very, very attainable for a lot of small businesses. So it's just a matter of like having a strategy in place, doing your research, and figuring out how much you want to budget towards that. So, but video content I think is great. You brought up a good point about site speed. You don't want to go crazy on videos like on one page. Like you don't want to put like 5 or 10 videos on like one page because I would just bog down the time. But maybe like, a lot of people started doing the videos where it's within the photo section. So we have apps that you can do that with, and we have like people who can help integrate that. But basically, you can scroll through all the images, and then one of the image thumbnails is just a video, and it could be one of those videos, right? Or you could put it in your product description, however you want to do that. So yeah. Awesome. So yeah, Green Roads. Again, they have all these breakouts down here, ingredients, so that it's going to be common for everybody here, I think. Probably like nutritional facts and things like that. Suggested use, reviews, and then subscribe and save, right? We have apps that can help you do subscriptions, or even buy now, pay later stuff, right? Like maybe they purchase a large amount, they just want to use something like Afterpay or Sezzle or Klarna. I'm sure some of you have come across these names before, but they can pay in like 4 payments. And that's really common among the younger generations who don't want or have credit cards. They just finance that way. And if they already have an Afterpay or Klarna account, like that's another way you can increase conversion, right? But the subscribe and save one's huge in the food and beverage industry. I remember when I worked for coffee roasters, our coffee subscriptions were a huge chunk of our revenue each year, and the margins are a lot better. So if you want to do subscription kind of model, we have multiple partners that can do that on BigCommerce, and I'm sure other platforms like Shopify and others can probably do that as well, but I definitely recommend it.
We get a quick question actually about.
Oh, sure.
Yes. Yeah. So from says, some of our Shopify apps, namely Rebuy and Recharge, are slowing down at our website speed. Do you think it's more advantageous to delete the apps to have a faster site for things like Google ranking, or do you think the benefits of the apps outweigh the slightly slower store?
That's a tough one. It really just depends on where you're at in your business. And sometimes I think in this vertical, I think the subscription stuff's probably going to be more beneficial than just the site speed stuff. However, if it's slowing it down to the point where it's like affecting the user experience, that's when you need to reconsider it. Because if you notice like you're using it, you're like, oh man, this is like snail speed, right? And if you're noticing it, everybody else is probably noticing it. And then on a mobile device, they're 100% probably noticing it. So you just have to keep that in mind. I think if it's not something you notice right off the bat, like when you're using it, I think it's fine. But if it's something noticeable, then definitely, look at other options out there of other apps that may be more optimized for that. So.
The other thing that I've seen people use as well are there's apps like Hotjar and a couple others where you can actually watch people navigate the site, which also slow down the site as well because there's so much kind of going on there. But it's something that you can turn on temporarily to see like where people are getting stuck, what pages they're looking at, when they're like rage clicking, and then use that to determine if people are getting stuck on those pages or on the app service too slow.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. Yeah. If it's running in the background and you're already using it that often, like, yeah, you have, it's a delicate balance of like, okay, how many, scripts can I run on the site without it affecting the user experience? Because ultimately the user experience is what Google is ranking you on. And if you notice that the user experience is bad because of something or because of a multitude of scripts running all at the same time, then odds are that's what Google's gonna, hit you on. So I think, is it something that you could remove and help your ranking? Maybe. But when we talk about SEO, and this is a little bit off topic, but SEO, the majority of what Google ranks you on is going to be things that are off-site elements, like getting backlinks. So say you went to one of those YouTubers and they backlink to your site in their description, or maybe they have a blog and they backlink to you in a blog and then multiple people backlink to you because of that, right? Google likes that more because it's kind of like, again, social proof that you are, the best, most reputable source of information, right? Because people are actually willing to link to you. Google puts that above anything that you could do on your site. So I think take it with a grain of salt in terms of the site speed stuff, but if it's affecting your user experience, then reconsider. Great questions, y'all. Any other questions, Jordan?
Not right now. If anyone else has questions, feel free to just drop those into the chat. I love these that Liza and Stephanie asked. So definitely, if you have any more, drop them in the chat. We'll be happy to get those to Scott.
Perfect. Spiceology, another one. So they just call it right out. First time here, read this. Like, just knowing that people are landing on this page probably from Google. They call out the rewards points here. They have those breakout menus that, like we had seen, nutritional facts, try it on, whatever, right? So again, making it, if this was on a mobile screen too, these drop-down menus are perfect because you can click with your thumb, drops it down, and then, expand it and contract it as you need it. So awesome. So the next one, upselling strategies. So I'm sure y'all have probably done this, maybe even like in your brick and mortar stores or however you sell your products, but very common in this vertical and others is bundling. So you can kind of see here, Snap Kitchen does 12 meals a week, $10 per meal, and then they break it out very easily, right? So that's something that I think that could, always be a good value proposition for folks who are just like not as price conscious, but are more about the ease of use. But they still are laying out the criteria, right? So maybe if you are price conscious, they're answering all those questions, right? So bundling's huge. We have integrations that can allow you to bundle stuff. You can we have ways to do related items or frequently bought together items on BigCommerce. So definitely want to take advantage of that. There's ways that you can do loyalty programs and referrals programs through partners like Yotpo. I'm sure, Shopify and whoever, WooCommerce, they've probably got ways to do this too. But definitely a great way to, promote more upselling, and then, free shipping and discounts. So say like, hey, spend this much more, you get free shipping, or spend this much more and you get 30% off. Quick upsell. And again, we have integrations where you can post little messages like that on your site to upsell to folks. So definitely good for conversion. You can see Solo Stove does it with their bundles. So they don't just sell their fire, the pits. They also do these bundle deals with the stand and the covers and everything. So again, these are pretty durable goods. Like, they're most likely going to buy this and keep it for like 10 to 15 years, right? So odds of them coming back, unless they're buying it as a gift for someone, are pretty slim. So, you want to lock them in and be like, okay, I want to buy like everything right now, because they're ultimately going to be happier if they buy all this together. So laying it out and giving them a clear of like, oh, this is how much I'm saving if I buy it together, right? Versus like, if I need it later, like, yeah. So just clearly laying that stuff out, again, is huge for getting people to not only convert, but also to increase that average order value. Spiceology, variety packs. I'm sure y'all have this too, where, in the coffee industry during the holidays, I like to buy like sampler packs of like different origins and stuff. And Onyx Coffee does a great job of that. They have like one that's an advent calendar, and it's a different coffee every day. So super fun. So get creative, think of ways that you can package it like that, and then how you would display that on the site, and how you make it easy for people to come across that stuff is really key. With them, they've added it to their collections over here, and then they just have a variety of different options for different kinds of shoppers. Go back. Let's see. Yeah, one-time purchase or subscribe and save. Again, that's still like kind of a bundle deal. We already talked about subscriptions, but it is still kind of considered a bundle when you're thinking about they could have just purchased. This happened to me when I was starting to buy. One of my dogs has to take special prescription dog food. And I was like, man, I know I'm going to have to just keep getting this over and over again. So I go through Chewy, and they're like, yeah, save 15% on all your orders. So I initially was just going to buy it once, but then I added it, and now I bought it for like the past, 8 years. So keeping those people coming back, that's going to drive your conversion rate up, because if you think about repeat customers, their conversion rates are going to be double, sometimes triple of what new customers are going to be. So if you increase the amount of repeat customers you have, you can just kind of guarantee that your conversion rate is going to go up as well. So, yeah.
Scott, do you recommend any subscription apps, or have you seen a difference between subscription apps in terms of why you would choose one over the other?
Not really. I don't have any personal experience. I know there's Recharge is a big one across a lot. We have Subscriptia is another one that's pretty big. There's WorldPay or something like that. There's a few different options on BigCommerce, but ultimately a lot of it just comes down to maybe like transaction fees. So, and like maybe some, kind of, I guess, security protections that they offer to you. So maybe like fraud kind of stuff and things like that. Like some of these might offer more in that department than others. So it's kind of something, you just got to kind of compare and contrast. But as far as like, one over the other, which one's better, I think it just depends on you as a merchant and what you value.
So what I found as well, and looking at them, that a lot of the base functionality is very similar. It's just a matter of like how well developed their backend experience is, and how easy it is for you to like navigate and customize. I just mentioned in the chat that I use Recharge to run on my sites, and Jolly does as well. So Sasha, I can send over more info on that.
Cool. Yeah. Recharge is definitely probably one of the more common ones that people work with. But yeah, we have multiple partners, and yeah, if you want any more info that, I can provide that as well. So awesome. And then one of the last things here, design your social experience. So this is really about you in terms of how you present yourself, not only on your direct-to-consumer site, but across the internet. So you want to be consistent across the board, right? You want someone to come to your Twitter account or your Facebook account and be like, oh, it's the same logo, it's the same kind of tone, it's the same, kind of like, diction and things like that, right? There's no doubt in the customer, the user's mind, that this is the official, Savannah Bee Company TikTok account or whatever, right? So like, that's kind of what you want to do. Is as you get bigger, sometimes companies experience like people who do fake accounts or they do other things. So you just never know. But like, honestly, with trust, that's the biggest thing in terms of like across the internet, making sure that you're consistent on logos, consistent on like how often you post, and the kind of information that you're posting. I mean, you can cater to different kinds of customers, but you want to make sure to like how you're saying things is all kind of cohesive, and that you have like a clear brand voice is what we call that. So BigCommerce has free integrations to allow you to connect to channels like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can have advertising pixels put in without having to code anything. There's a really nice, quick, and easy area. You just copy the pixel code that they give you and you paste it in BigCommerce, and then it posts on every single page. So anytime someone clicks on an ad and comes to the site, you're able to track that from BigCommerce very easily. Play around with your content, tell the story, showcase products. Again, build your brand in a cohesive way, right? And, try to think of ways that, you can tie some of your social content back to your direct consumer site too, right? Like, how do you drive people back to your main site to hopefully place sales? That's the goal of conversion. So definitely build your brand. Again, TikTok videos, you don't have to do anything crazy. If you have someone that or if you want to hire someone that you think would be a good fit to create video content and stuff like that, that's fun and lighthearted and just kind of shows off who you are as a brand, then I say go for it. And, there's something cool that we also do at BigCommerce free of charge for our customers, is that if you want to talk to an expert about what channel you should list to next or what channel you should focus on, maybe you already do Facebook and Instagram, you're like, what's the next step? Like, should I do TikTok? Should I do, Snapchat or whatever? We have experts that can talk about that. We even have, they even talk about like listing to big retailers like Walmart, Target, things that you normally as just an individual retailer wouldn't be able to put an application in for. That since we have relationships with partners like Feedonomics and things like that, we have been able to successfully get people launch on places like Walmart and Target in order to, boost their sales by a lot. Because if you list to think like Amazon's great, but also you have to think Amazon's very competitive. So if you want to list something that's less competitive and you're selling your own kind of brand, right? Walmart's gonna be a little bit better because they're more selective. You're more likely to show up higher in the search. And people are probably gonna trust it more if they're shopping at Walmart than necessarily Amazon, because Amazon just has so many retailers on it now. And so it's really good for a branding experience. So yeah, if you're interested in listening to these different channels, you can definitely and assuming you're on BigCommerce, you can definitely reach out and we can get you set up with an expert to do a consult on that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I guess if anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask?
These can be questions about problems on your e-commerce site or what you should focus on. I like these questions around subscriptions. Yesterday, I was on a call with a founder and they were asking about different ways of like managing orders and shipping supplies and things like that. So any questions around problems that you're encountering? You feel free to type them in the chat, or if you want to just come off of mute, you can ask those directly to Scott. I guess one question that I had, Scott, is how has e-commerce changed or is changing in 2022, since we saw huge spikes during the pandemic in sales? It feels like a lot of brands are saying those sales are kind of leveling down, or at least the growth is lower. Have you worked with brands or really talked through that experience?
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of the case, when, I started with BigCommerce, it's like right at the beginning of the pandemic. So you saw this kind of frenzy to get an e-commerce site in order to just keep things afloat, right? Especially in the food and beverage industry or the service industry, right? Like people were just trying to figure out, how do I get online? How can I make sales still? So this growth was just crazy. But now it is starting to level out a bit. However, I think if you're new to it, I think there's a lot more potential because more people are shopping online now. Especially, people of older generations, right? I think out of necessity, they had to, place orders online for groceries and all these other things. So people became more comfortable with these things. So I think before, maybe, you saw a bigger increase in the amount of people going to e-commerce, and then e-commerce sale, maybe people who are already on e-commerce, their sales increased during that time, and then they're starting to level out. But like, I think that's a different use case than someone who's just starting on e-commerce. So I think the pool of people now that are using platforms online to buy stuff is going to be a lot bigger pool than it was prior to the pandemic. So I don't think it's something that's going to be stale or stagnant. I do think that there is more competition. So that part is tricky too, right? And that's what, this conversion stuff plays into is how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you keep the customers that, once you have them, how do you keep them? And how long is that lifetime for that customer? So yeah, I think that's really the name of the game. But great question.
Yeah, a lot of people have been so focused on new customer acquisition, and now everyone's talking about retention, when it's been something I've been really harping out for a while. Like, you should try to keep everyone who buys your product to come back as a customer. And if you're losing a lot of people, then you have a big problem. You should probably stop acquiring new customers until you figure out how to keep the ones that you have.
Right. And that's why I was like hesitant to say get rid of recharge, because I think this industry is so reliant on repeat customers and volume that you definitely want to focus that'll increase your conversion overall, because repeat customers, again, it's going to be at least double the conversion rate. So if you go from 10% repeat customers up to, say, double that, 20%, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of sales that you gain just from that alone. And then we like to see that spread more of like closer to the 60-40 mark when you get up to scale, because odds are, when you've been on the internet for a little while, you're just going to get a lot of new traffic, and that's just kind of by nature. So to expect that your returning traffic would be more than your new traffic would be almost kind of unreasonable. But if you could get it around 40% down the road, that's amazing. And if you in the B2B sector, it's going to be a little bit different too, because most of your customers are going to be repeat customers, right? You're going to be creating accounts for them, and they're going to be just fulfilling their inventory, right? So yeah, it just kind of depends, but yeah.
Someone just private messaged me a question asking about how BigCommerce works with like wholesale orders with like B2B, and how like that integrates into a site.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've really been honing in on this over the past couple of years. Something we did on my team too is we do It's not just these audits, but we also help people who are coming on to BigCommerce. You can purchase a service where we go through how to set up your store from start to finish, how you navigate BigCommerce all the way up to the bigger topics like paid ads, social media, SEO, all that stuff. And sorry, I'm blanking. What was the question again? I forgot.
Around like B2B orders.
B2B, yes. So one thing we started doing was we worked with partners that offer the capability for things like quoting, things to help you with people who invoice and do net terms, things like people who have companies that purchase from them, but they have multiple people buying for them and they need access to one company account. We have partners like Bundle B2B who actually recently just purchased that we are working with now to be able to integrate that stuff. So where basically you have this experience where people can log in, they see all the orders for their company under one account, they can pay the invoice on your BigCommerce store, you can request quotes, all of that stuff, natively or not natively, but like within BigCommerce. So there's definitely ways to do that, and we've been making it very much a big part of our strategy going forward to kind of differentiate ourselves from some of the competitors. But yeah, there's other things too that are native, like price lists. We have ways where you can say, okay, anybody who's in this particular group will have this pricing displayed to them on the website. And that goes all the way down to the SKU level. So you could have, maybe you sell a bag of chips, but you have bags of chips in 3 different sizes. You could have different prices displayed for different users for each one of those SKUs if you wanted to. So that's kind of at a baseline what we do. But to answer your question, there's a lot that we are working on to offer the best kind of B2B experience out there. So.
Perfect. Scott, this is so great. And there's so much in-depth information in here. I absolutely love it. Thanks so much for joining today. This conversation was recorded, so I'll get that edited and sent out on Monday. So anyone, if you missed any parts, you can definitely jump back in and check out anything. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to kind of connect you to to Scott and Missy who are at BigCommerce. They're definitely experts in this. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your Friday and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.